Hi everybody, I'm Tony E at ShowAP Interface Brief. Today is my first day back into the lab grind, and I have an announcement. I pledge to lab every day for the next 100 days, with 100 vlogs to follow. So I'm getting on board with the lab everyday movement, and that is to try and force myself to committing and accelerating my CCIE Lab journey. I'm a little bit tired because it's nearly midnight and I've been at this for a couple hours, and my body's not used to staying up labbing because I've taken the past couple of weeks off. But anyhow, I wanted to, since this is going to be the first of many vlogs and many long lab nights, I wanted to kind of introduce how I'm going to be accomplishing this, what my plan is, in case anyone is looking for advice, or if in case anyone wants to give me advice on how to successfully prepare for my CCIE lab exam. So just over 2 weeks ago, I was at Cisco Live, where I passed my CCIE written. I was with my family in Florida, and the agreement I took with my family was that I would take the next 2 weeks off. Actually, I was only planning on taking 1 week off of studying after passing the written, but we decided to take an extra week off as we've had a very busy couple of weeks. The whole time I wasn't studying, I kept reminding my family that when that Monday comes, which is today, that I'm back on the wagon, back on the study wagon, and that it was going to be a full commitment. Well, Monday has come, and when I woke up and I went to work, I had labbing on the mind. In fact, I was feeling a little bit anxious about labbing tonight while I was at work this morning, because I really didn't have a clear plan. I knew I was going to be labbing and starting my journey for the CCIE lab exam, but I really haven't taken the time to formulate a plan. And I still don't have a concrete plan, but I have a really good foundation now. If any of you follow me on Twitter or on the Land Tamers Discord server, you know that I rarely plan. I never have a plan to begin with. But as the day went on and the anxiousness went away, I started becoming overjoyed. I was so happy to be labbing again. I knew that I was going to be labbing and I was going to be learning something new. And that's why I've been on this journey. There's been nights prior when I was studying before and I would do labs. Even though I wasn't preparing for the lab exam, I would do some labs. There'd be nights where I would come up to bed and I would be so excited about something that I had learned, something that I didn't know how it worked, something that was new. And that's what's so exciting about this journey is learning how all of these things work that you thought you understood, and now you're forcing yourself to take that deeper dive. I knew what I wanted to lab tonight, but I didn't know how I wanted to lab. I knew the topics I wanted to cover, but I didn't formulate a plan on how I was going to get the most out of my session. So I took a tip from my buddy the Land Tamer, and I made an Excel spreadsheet of the blueprint topics. I did this so I can keep track of my progress and make sure I didn't leave any stones unturned. So planning, even just planning a little bit is so foreign to me because I'm not a planner. But it feels good to lay it all out in front of you. This is a new feeling for me, but I hope that it helps to keep me focused, especially over this 100-day commitment that I'm making. So here's the spreadsheet. It is about 360 lines, and that's when you take out the white spaces. So 360 lines. That's really a lot of itemized topics to cover. It really is a lot. Now, some of those are duplicate lines. They have packet capture in almost every section. So some of those are duplicates. I know that. But still, 360 is a lot of items to try and sit down and study, even if you're just chiseling away at them one at a time. So I did a little mental math, and I realized 360 topics. If I did one topic a day, that would be roughly a year. But I want to try a little different path. In the back of my mind, I have a milestone that I want to hit, and that is it is now July 2nd, so we've just crossed the halfway mark in the year. I want to try and shoot for being prepared for the CCIE Lab exam end of 2018, end of this year. Now, whether or not that's a real, maybe that's too aggressive. Maybe that's not realistic. But I want to try and be ready for the lab exam by the end of 2018. I know the passing rate for the CCIE Lab on your first attempt is low. And I also know the amount of time, generally speaking, that on average people study to pass the CCIE Lab, either their first or second or third try. Now, I don't think I have any special magic that I think I can get it done faster than anybody else by the end of the year. But for my personality type, I have to draw a line in the sand. I have to make that mark to give me something to shoot towards. And even if I'm not fully prepared to take the lab exam by the end of the year, I will at least be able to fully gauge my preparedness and develop a strategy for moving forward. I am a procrastinator. And if I don't draw a line in the sand, which is end of 2018, then I might just wait till the end of 2018 to start studying. And that's not a situation you want to be in when studying for the CCIE Lab. At least, I'm old enough to know better, to know myself. So for my lab tonight, I did basic DMVPN with static routing using IPv4. I did not do IPv6. I was planning on it, but I'm just tired and I'm going to go to bed. I know the bar is a little low for a CCIE doing DMVPN with just static routes. In fact, there's nothing really dynamic about it if you're just doing static routing. But I wanted to make sure my EVE-NG setup was still working. I wanted to make sure I had access to everything, and I just wanted to get back into the groove of things. And the fact is I thought I was really going to just hammer this out and ace it like it was no problem and just pull DMVPN configs from memory. And I made a couple of silly mistakes. I definitely learned a few things here. They might have been topics that I've covered before, but now that I've made the mistake, now that now that you've touched the fire and you've gotten burned, you won't make that mistake again. In fact, one of the reasons why I wanted to do something that was a little bit easier as far as CCIE topics goes is because earlier on Twitter today, someone was asking for some, I don't even know if they were asking for study advice, but I had volunteered the advice of write down your entire configs for your lab in Notepad and then paste them in. And if everything pastes in correctly and works, then you know that config set. Then you know the commands that you need to type to make that happen. So I went ahead and tried and did that with a basic DMVPN configuration. I made a mistake. And it didn't work, and I was troubleshooting it for well over 15 minutes, where in the lab exam that would just be wasted time, absolute wasted time. So this was really a moment of sort of, eating your own dog food, of taking your own advice. The advice I gave to someone else, I wanted to take it, and I made a mistake and wasted time troubleshooting, and I'm very happy I did go through this exercise because I'm going to keep going down that method. I want to make sure that I know the commands, as well as that I'm taking the time to learn the technology, but I want to make sure that the learning the commands part just becomes muscle memory and second nature, that I don't have to use the question mark to find the right keywords or the commands. I wanted to be able to just hammer it out, no problem. There was also on the LANtamer Discord server, someone had shared out the other day the DMVPN design guide, the Cisco validated design guide, and I wanted to have an opportunity to go through that. I did not have an opportunity to go through that today, so over the next couple of days, I'm going to continue doing DMVPN. I hope to be able to pull some elements from the design guide and be able to build those into a lab. Also, over the next couple of days, I'm going to start introducing routing protocols into the DMVPN architecture. I have just a hub and 3 spokes. I think that is enough to work with to really get back into labbing. Now, the blueprint starts at layer 2. So if we pull up the spreadsheet, starts the topics at the top. Our layer 2 topics, I'm not starting with layer 2 topics. I really just wanted to get into something that that I thought was a little more fun. I don't know why, but I'm absolutely drawn to DMVPN. I think it's a really awesome technology. The basic VPN, the basics are fairly easy to configure. So I wanted to start with that. I wanted to get that out of the way, and I know it's something that we can always go back to. So I'll be circling back around to these topics. I'm not going to be going through them in order. I just happen to want to jump into DMVPN right away on day one. So over the next few nights, I'm going to be hammering out DMVPN, routing protocols, introduce IPv6 into it. That's something I've never done. I've never done DMVPN with IPv6, so that will be interesting. And some of the lessons learned from tonight, which were some of the mistakes I've made, I'm going to go ahead and highlight in a blog post. I'm going to call this video and the blog post to match day 1 of 100 days labbing for CCIE. And as I progress through this, the videos and the topologies and the configs, I assume will get progressively more complicated, just to try and challenge myself, and we'll see how this goes. So if anyone wants to let me know, give me some advice, give me some study tips, or have any proposed topologies or anything that that I can build in lab, I'm happy to. I'd love to, and I'm really looking forward to this journey. Thanks. Although basic DMVPN with static routes is a pretty basic configuration, here's the topology here. I have router 1 as my hub, router 2, 3, and 4 as 3 spokes. Pretty basic. They're all connected via a common subnet there in the middle. I imposed a couple of restrictions on myself. Restriction number 1, I can only use show commands to verify. Restriction number 2, I got to type my commands in Notepad first. At least try to build configlets templates so I can paste them in. I cannot use show run to verify, and for troubleshooting I can only use Wireshark and debugging. And although this may seem like no-brainers, like duh, I typically like to go to verifying configurations by doing show run over and over and over and over, and I know it's a waste of time. So I'm really sort of trying to do this with a hand behind my back, or at least the hands that I normally like to use, which is checking the show running config. So this time I'm trying to impose a couple of restrictions, so I take that away from me. So that will teach me to learn what all the elements are in the show output, right? Because if I'm not being able, because if I can't see the running config, I'm forced to learn what all of those elements are. And in fact, tonight I did that a little bit, and I learned something new, something pretty basic, but something new, and that's what it's all about, learning something new every day.